most of the people that are doing this are thinking it's about frequency when in reality, it's about quality. Welcome to Sidewalk Talk. I'm Jamie Catania, and today we're talking about touch points. From a marketing and sales perspective, in order for a message to be sent, you have to choose a medium, of course, right? But in today's world, we're bombarded from all different angles, whether it's emails, text messages, radio commercials, TV commercials. And where the world is kind of going wrong is most of the people that are doing this are thinking it's about frequency when in reality, it's about quality. And we're going to kind of go over some of the examples that we've experienced ourselves as marketing professionals, where some people are trying to sell to us, and we pick up on what works and kind of what doesn't. And I know, Steve, you have quite a few amount of examples as somebody that's obviously a business owner who is constantly being sold to, but also you've been on the other side as well in media and knowing the power of a message and not necessarily the frequency of how many times a message is received. So you want to kind of just talk about some of the things that you've received that I guess would kind of annoy you because you've seen it so many times, but maybe some of the things that have also worked where, you've been interested in having a meeting with that person reaching out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's because of AI, but and in discussing with some of our clients and other business owners, it just seems to be getting worse, right? The the quality of the quality of the solicitations are getting worse. And it's not just about solicitations. It's just any kind of customer service, and the way they go about it. Here's the way I see it. We have systems are important, right? And and we talk about the sales funnel, whether we're marketing and sales, and it's important to have that system. But I think it's also important to manage that system. A system left alone isn't going to work. It's going to be ruined by humans. You have to make people accountable. And I think a great example of that happens to be what were they? They were, I won't get into the name of the company, Jane, but they were they managed they backed up our data for
Oh
us.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
backup company. And it's a bigger national company. And they sucked. They continuously tried to upsell, and we gave them many opportunities, but they weren't listening. And so we had to move on, and we wanted something local, just where we could have better customer service. And so we uh, just discontinued their service and got a new service. And we're going on, that was 6 months ago, we discontinued their service, and they still don't know that we're not using them because I keep getting invoices and then I keep getting opportunities for an upsell. And then the other day I got a collections call. And it's like, what? And so they have a system in place, and that collections call person, she left me a voicemail. I did not answer that call. But what she did, she made that call, and I really didn't understand what she said. She was kind of reading the script and she mumbled it and then thought she hung up, but she didn't. So I could hear her going through her stuff, and you could hear other people, and she was getting ready for her next call. But the system shows she made that call. So that formula would tell you, all right, that's one call, then we're going to do an email, and then we'll call 2 weeks later and then do another call. But there's a failure in that system in that call doesn't really count. It doesn't, they're not going to, there's a complete misunderstanding in communication. So they have multiple problems. But this system, there's a system failure because no one's managing her. If they're managing her, she would not have left the message the way she left that message. Another example is we have, this was quite a few years ago, actually, but they're a funeral home. And so customer service is kind of important, funeral homes. And the owner of the funeral home, just first of all, just a great guy, whole family, great people. Um, but they can't answer the phone 24/7. People do die 24/7, and there are needs 24/7. And I think this is a good example of a system failure. I found out that they had a phone answering service. Of course, I was asking about that, and I said, um, and they recorded it, which is great. But where their system failure is they never check the recordings. So I said, let me just check the recording. So it's not really a secret shop. It's just sort of a secret shop, but I'm just checking it. And I'm listening, and someone had unfortunately lost their husband. I don't know, say it's 2 in the morning. And this is a smaller funeral home where kind of everyone knows who that owner is. Well, the lady that answered the phone didn't have that empathy. She it was awful. It was mortifying to hear the way she treated this lady who had just lost her husband. Instead, she should have just dropped every. She never. She had no like. I'm really sorry. We're gonna do whatever we can for you. In fact, I'll call him, the owner now, and we'll get to you. Just stand still. Don't worry about a thing. It was more like, okay, I'll take your number, and like it would be I don't know what someone would call a complaint line or something. I'll take your number and we'll get to it when our business opens tomorrow, right? Well, that doesn't
Hmm.
happen in the funeral business. We got to help you out right away. You're in your most biggest time of need. You need someone to hold your hand, and even if it gives you a virtual hug, whatever you got to do. And this lady didn't have that. So I saw that as a failure of two systems. Number one, the funeral home by not checking these, but really the biggest failure was the vendor that they hired to do the answering service. Then, and what I'd found out is, and this lady's good at her job, but what they had her do was, okay, you're the answering service for this bowling alley. You're the answering service for this particular business, for a dental office, for emergencies, for a dental office, right? I'll take your number. Docs will get back. Is this really emergency? Let's call 911. And you're also going to be for the funeral home. Well, you have to have a different approach for each one. Major system failure, system in place. This is great. Okay, she's going to cover these three businesses, these four. You're going to cover these four. Well, you got to check on that and make sure she's trained properly. Just because you have that system in place, she's not trained to take that call, to have a different approach than you would if you were, a bowling alley. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, you have to have the things that mess up a system are people. And but that's always going to happen if you don't check on the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it comes back to quality. Was that person providing quality customer service? No, because they were spread so thin, multiple touch points, again, going from this business to this business to this business, not knowing how to get back into that mode, that persona of, okay, I need to be empathetic, or I need to be educational, I need to be a little bit more cold. It's, again, it comes back to the process that's in place. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I look at what just happened with well, we had a company that we were talking to. I don't remember where they were, but they were somewhere in the country. I want to say it was out in Oregon. But
Hmm.
uh this was strictly about advertising, and they're working on retention, recruitment and retention. And they thought they were covered because they had this multiple touch points. They were doing some billboards, they're doing some of those radio ads. So it's all covered. And we're doing some email, and then we're doing some local mailers.
Yeah.
Well, it's
They
all
had a big
covered.
marketing mix.
Marketing mix. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
covered, right? That's multiple touch points. Well, multiple touch points are useless if the message isn't correct, right? So that comes back to our theory of message before delivery. It's more important what you say than where you say it, but it's also more important what you say than how many times you say it. Because if you keep saying crappy things that aren't under any certain umbrella without a true strategy, you just wasted resources, time, money. So it covers it. It's in it's in marketing, it's in customer service, it's in sales. And by the way, we always say everyone's in sales. So this, here's another one. I mean, just a personal thing. I was calling a vet recently. We got a dog a year ago, and so this was be our 1 year checkup, our first 1 year checkup, and I wasn't sure how they go about it. I had dogs in the past, and so I knew we had to get the shot, the distemper, and then the rabies. But they had given us a list from last year, and it's like 5 different shots. You had to get 5 different appointments, and I was kind of fumbling. I'd called, and the lady had answered, and I was fumbling through like, how do we set I didn't want to have 5 appointments. Like, don't have time for that. And so I wasn't getting my message out to her very well. There was no empathy from her. There was no return communication. There was silence. And I don't know, it made me feel nervous. Like, am I doing something wrong? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? It reminds me of the Seinfeld episode, Soup Nazi. You got to get in there and you got to be ready and you got to have your order ready or he's going to yell
Yeah.
at you and throw you out. And that's the way I felt. So it was making it worse. And then as I was talking, she said, she said something like, "So you want to set an appointment?" Like that. She was aggressive. "So you want to set an appointment with the checkup?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I want to. I was just wondering." "Hold, please." I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was, I was pissed, man. I thought, I got to change vets. I got to let them know it's my job. I just secret shop for these people for free. But then
Mhm.
I said, I can't. I just can't go through. I don't have the time for that. But another lady, she sent me to somebody else who was very, very kind. And I did say, could I ask you who I just spoke with? And she told me her name and I repeated the name. She said, yes, that's her. And I was about to let them know she's having a bad day. You might want to check on her. But I said, I'll just let it go. And this lady was taking care of me and we set our appointments and she explained everything to me. She listened to me. She understood my confusion and we worked through it. Um, I guess my point with that is you can't have a bad day. So we talk about all these touch points and all these things in place. And touch points also include people that are calling in so in this situation, right? And you are allowed to have bad days. And it's great that we are accepting a mental awareness and mental health conditions and we're allowing it to be okay to not be okay, right? Uh, but in the end, um, it's your responsibility if you are not okay, to not take it out on your customers. I don't know if you fake it till you make it. To me, in that situation, if that lady had said, "Excuse me, sir," whatever, I'm having a really bad day and I'm the wrong person to be talking to right now. I'm going to transfer you to somebody else that can help you way better than I can. How would I have reacted? I would have been like, I gotcha. That's not a problem at all. We
Yeah.
all have bad days, and I appreciate her authenticity. Instead of just being rude, shutting me down, it would have, that we talk about shoveling the sidewalk. It's everything you do affects your brand, and so good and bad. And she affected their brand in a bad way. And I'm sure I wasn't the only person. It could really cost them in that way. So there's a system in place, and that there's a failure within the system because of the way she treated me and the way she may treat others. I think about, I used to be a sportscaster, and so I do a 6 o'clock news and an 11 o'clock news on television. I couldn't have a bad day. Live on TV. One time a friend of mine died. I found out at 3:30. I was on the air at 6 o'clock. There was no one else to replace me. I had to do it. Um, you don't want your your heart surgeon to have a bad day. But they're going to have a bad day, right? Because they're human, so they're going to have a bad day. But you don't want your pilot to have a bad day. So when you're representing your company in any capacity or your own personal brand, have a bad day, but get yourself out of the position that you could really hurt your company. You can't. So as we talk about managing your weaknesses, exploiting your strengths. So if your weakness that day is your mental approach, then figure out a way to manage it. Either you fake it or you find someone else that can help. Because if you're going to take out your frustrations on a customer or potential customer, you're going to hurt your business. And we can all say, yes, we want to help you in any way we can. We appreciate that you have a bad day or you're having mental health issues. But if it costs the company business enough times, you're going to lose your job or the company's going to go out of business,
Yeah.
right? Whether you're having a bad day, a good day, you need a mental health day. If you need a mental health day, take the day, but don't affect the company. I guess that's where I'm going with that.
Hmm. Yeah, you gotta leave sometimes that stuff at home. Um, separate personal from business. It can only help you.
Well, I mean, think,
And
okay, talk about morning disc jockeys.
yeah,
You always have the one person and the other person's job is to laugh. Is that person allowed to have a bad day?
yeah, they just gotta
Yeah.
cry during the songs.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure some of them have a relationship with their audience. They can say, I'm having a really bad day. I bet you that would click
Hmm.
with the audience.
Yeah.
Authenticity. And so be real. So I'm not saying don't have a bad day. I'm not saying there's not empathy when you have um, mental health issues. But you either have to be in a position to be transparent about it and let them know, I'm having a really bad day. I'm the worst person to help you right now. I'm going to have somebody else help you. Or I don't, or it's, I'm not going to be able to help you today. I'll be back at it tomorrow and I'll let you know or what time and do what you got to do to get yourself out of that situation, and to best help your customer, potential customer, whatever the situation is. But you can't, yeah, you just can't take it out on people. It's it,
Yeah.
that's fair or unfair. That's life.
Yeah, I think that goes with like kind of the thing we always push where it's better to just be authentic in yourself. Don't try to lie about why you're grouchy or stuff like that or get around it. Sometimes being upfront and honest with people is going to be, it's harder, but you'll get a much better reaction from the person that, you know, you're interacting with. If you're having that bad day, trying to be like, oh, I'm fine and just getting through it is a lot worse than saying, I'm sorry, I'm just in a tough spot today. I'll be right with you, or I can get someone else to help you. Got to be authentic and don't try to, I don't know how to say it, but not just be yourself and be honest with them because that's going to go farther than getting a reaction out of them.
And there's really kind of like two things happening in this conversation that we're having right now. So the first is being human and
Mhm.
knowing when to deviate from a script, because whether you're in customer service or sales, whatever it may be, if you're robotic, okay, and somebody's talking to you, like for the example that Steve was bringing up about the vet, it's like that person had a formula in their brain, whether they were having a bad day or not. They had a formula in their brain where it's like, I need to get this appointment booked. I got him on the line right now. I don't care that he's having a bad time. Okay, so you want an appointment, right? All right, cool. Check mark. Second is we want to be authentic, but we also want to communicate things too. So if you are having a bad day and you're in customer service, being upfront with that person and letting them know what's going on is going to ultimately be better for the brand, instead of someone who decides to immediately go online and leave that review that this company A is terrible. I was treated like this, without knowing the story behind what happened, to that person from that interaction, because it was a touch point, whether it was their first time or their, you know, seventh time. So there's really it's really two way. It's like sometimes we always want to be human in our interactions, but sometimes I don't know if it would be an example of being too human, but when you're letting your emotions out and showing frustration with that customer interaction, it's best to explain where you're coming from so that it's not a bad thing for the brand. A bad review, person talking in the grocery store, hey, I had a terrible experience. They're a terrible vet. They don't care.
Yeah, you have to recognize too if it's an emotional business, like a vet, you're at the front desk. You're dealing with people's family members as much as people want to just call them pets. it can be an emotional call when you're calling in because, something could be wrong with an animal. And if you're saying, well, did you make an appointment? Well, hold on one sec. Like it's it's a fine line to walk when you're working for a company or a business that deals with human emotions as, not their product, but it's the main thing that they're selling is health and well-being, and then just peace of mind that your family members are going to be okay. So having that empathy at the front desk, it trickles back onto the, if the front desk is this empathetic and caring, you can only imagine the person that hired them is going to feel the same way. So the gatekeeper can be huge for a company.
I mean,
So,
that's their first touch point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the sales funnel touch point where it's, you got to have that first touch point. And James, you know, you were in that business when you were selling and you do the cold calls, cold emails, and we touched on this a little earlier. I just feel like it's getting worse. I just can't imagine that it works. The 50 emails per day I get, a lot of it's because I've been exposed on LinkedIn. So people email me, and the subject line is "quick question for Steve." You know, um,
Don't want to waste your time.
I don't, yeah, or I know you're busy.
Yep. No, you're busy.
Steve, 5 minutes, Steve, or just like that's supposed to be humanizing. They put my name in there. Um, so now I probably miss like good opportunities to maybe purchase a service from somebody because anything I just I don't even look at them. They don't get opened. I mean, are those even working? Or is that like we have this system in place? So here are you could choose from these 10 scripts, and then we'll send it, you send it out, and if we get one person to respond, that's good, who may respond by accident in some capacity. I don't know. I just can't imagine that's working, that is not a colossal waste of energy. Isn't there a better way to figure out how to get warm leads rather than a complete cold lead? And a lot of it's now maybe the numbers are up because of AI, right? So that
Yeah.
the AI can do, but I don't see any
Yeah.
good cold emails ever. Not one.
I mean, first
Nothing.
of all, the emails don't have sound, so emails will never be what they were back then because of the frequency. And if we were to put a blame on it, besides AI being still in its infancy, I would say that it's um, automation is the blame because automation doesn't involve a human, and you put somebody in a sequence, which would mean they would get email this day of the week, then you'd get a reminder to get the phone call. And mind you, this is all within a program that's kind of telling you what to do. Uh, and it's up to that person to use it as guidance or, to follow the script to a T. I believe that the people that do well deviate from the script. And, from my experience, the emails were not the best option, for utilizing touch points, getting your message out there on the product or service that you're selling. Um, but you'd be surprised though on the responses that you'd get from some people that it just so happened to be the right timing for somebody. They were looking for that specific technology within their business. It was the right person. So the things that you can control are who you reach out to. If you're just loading up everybody in a sequence from customer service all the way to C-suite, um, that can get around in the company pretty quick that, hey, we'll look out for this Hey, yeah, I got this email too. People give each other a heads up. So it's about, we'll go back to quality. You got to find the quality people, the decision makers, the ones that are actually going to utilize what you're trying to sell. Um, and then when it comes to sequences, if this is where things go really wrong. If somebody says and they finally respond to you and they're your person that you've been trying to reach out and they say not interested or even give you a little bit of information about, hey, the timing's not right, but follow up with me Q2 next year, and you forget to take them out of that sequence, you get that response, hey, thanks for getting back to me. And you forget to take them out of that sequence. And then a week later, it's like you never even talked to them. You just lost them because that human element was missing. On paper, it looked good because it's like, hey, this is whatever number person that's receiving this exact email. This is a good fit. This is great. Numbers are checked off. But the quality aspect of it is you already had that conversation with them via email. They were kind enough to give you some information that it wasn't the right timing. And now you just ruined it because you didn't take them out of the sequence. So that's where the quantity it doesn't matter that you reached out to them and called them X amount of times. It was on the fourth or the third, whatever it was, and you had that quality information, and you as a human didn't utilize that. You just kept them, receiving the emails and in that sequence. So as a salesperson, it's very important to just be aware of these things. You got to use these as tools, whether it's AI or automated emails. They are tools that happen in the background for you to be more efficient with your time and your prospecting, and use your human brain to find them on LinkedIn or to find out if so and so is still in the same position. I mean, let's just talk about volunteer firefighters for a second. We work with volunteer firefighters for their retention and their recruitment. And in that sort of sales process, they probably don't receive that many people reaching out to them to help them with their retention and recruitment needs. So, if I'm reaching out to the wrong person that has nothing to do with retention and recruitment, and I just keep hounding them down and calling, every day or sending emails to the wrong person, I'm going to be labeled as a pest, and I'm going to be on the radar. And when I finally do speak with the chief or the retention officer, they're not going to want to speak with me because they had a bad brand experience with Shovel the Sidewalk. So that's where that quality comes in. You got to find the right people. You got to have the right message, and then worry about the quantity. It's not a science where it's like, I'm gonna call here and then I'm gonna send any. No, I like going with my gut. If I got the right person and I truly believe that I have a solution for them, it's like you kind of have that innate ability where it's just like, okay, this is a little too much. I called them this week, or I sent them an email. I haven't heard. I told them that I was going to follow up on Thursday. I have to abide by my word. I said I was going to follow up on Thursday. Now it's time for a phone call, and they should be expecting my phone call versus loading up all the chiefs in a sequence and sending out as many emails as possible. And now I lost all of them because there was no human connection with it. It was just generic sell, sell, sell. And in this world with AI and all the emails that people get, you got to stand out, and it's always going to be about the message.
So that first touch point. So quick question for you, Steve, doesn't work.
I'm going to tell you, it worked for me. I don't know if it works now, but if if that salesperson gets the recipient to open up the email, half the battle is over in my opinion. Half
And
the
quick
battle.
question is going to get you to open it. There's
No,
75
but if you
quick
get them to
questions
open it,
every day I get. Quick
yeah.
question for you, Steve. 5 minutes. I know you're
Mhm.
busy. Who opens that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say nowadays again, but in the past, those are the things that I used.
You used quick question.
Quick question.
That's
Not
brutal.
5 minutes, Steve, but I mean, you're saying this now because you've been bombarded by it. If that was unfamiliar to you, you might be a little bit more open to checking out what that email is. But because it's a pattern now, you're on high alert. There's other obviously subjects that you could use besides quick question, and I get what you're saying about that. There's really no
But isn't that
thought
where
behind
the
that.
but the quality, so you had already said
Yeah.
instead of that mass email to that group of people, it'd be better to pick a few and customize that. Couldn't you customize the subject line so that they would open it to
Yes,
make it more about them and
sure.
a possible service that a solution or something to some kind of connection? Somehow you got to figure out how to get them to open it, but I don't know about quick questions, Steve.
I mean, if it was quick question, just something that comes to mind, then it's not guaranteed to work, of course, but it literally could be a quick question. Like, do you still handle, these sort of systems in place for company A? And not sell, just literally, or can you point me in the right direction as to who handles this sort of thing? I get what you're saying,
No
Steve.
way would that work. At least for me, none of that would
It
work. But if it's
yeah.
like, I don't know, I have a solution for X. Now I might not need that. But if I do
Mhm.
need that, I might say,
Yeah.
this is something to
You're not
talk about.
everybody though.
Yeah,
So that's
I
something to
know that.
keep in
I
mind.
just find it hard to believe that anyone answers anything that says, quick question for you.
Yeah.
I think
I'd be
I think
surprised.
it's all about being specific. For example, I think Steve, when I reached out to you,
Mm-hmm.
it was about a company we work with, Heatwave, and their lawn signs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what the subject was Heatwave lawn signs. And I reached out to you because I really liked them because it just said Google us. And it was at a time where I was getting frustrated with business
Mm-hmm.
owners who wanted to put their address, zip code,
Mm-hmm.
date of birth, phone number, everything about them on there. And Heatwave just said Google us. And I'm like, that's brilliant. So I can't remember because we talked for about a year before I
Mm-hmm.
came aboard. So, but I believe the subject was just heat wave lawn signs. And I bet you that you were like, what? And if it's something specific and not just, I don't want to waste your time, I just want to ask you a couple questions, you have to say something along the lines like, heat wave lawn signs say Google us. And I think that is perfect for a billboard. Can we talk about that? Boom.
Uh,
Why would that work for a billboard? You got to get their wheels going so that they don't want to just say, yeah, I'll listen to you. You're hoping that they reach back out to you with another question so you can start building rather than just let me hear what you got to say for 3 minutes before I just tell you no automatically.
Yeah,
Um,
I
oh,
opened that, Tim, because it was something personal. It was personal to me because it was a client
yeah.
of ours. So it said the name of our client. I'm like, well, that's my responsibility. I got to check that out.
Yes,
You might have been trying to sell me something for my client,
absolutely.
but you obviously were only talking about one. It wasn't quick question for you, Steve.
Yeah, I think
You know,
something that you got to get personal or you got to get, I keep saying specific, but something that that business owner would know about that's like in their business regularly that a common outsider wouldn't regularly know about to make them think, how do they know about what is this? And you click open and then get to the point immediately and hope for the best at that point. Maybe try to call them after. But a specific, maybe thorn in the side to put it where it really grips you and you have to take notice of it is something that could be really important if you are trying to reach out to people via emails.
it's labor intensive, right? So
Hmm.
you can't send out 100 of those a day.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have 100 quick questions, put name of person in here, I can send those out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's quantity versus
Yep.
quality.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I remember there was, um, you have to reach out to a certain amount of person 10 times. And then after that, you'll get maybe three callback. I don't know, a bunch of numbers and stuff. But if you're just saying the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again, no matter how many people call you back, you're not going to have a real solution for them because you're just placing them as another cog in this sales machine that you're trying to create when it's just not like that anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, times have changed. I mean, you got to be more personalized and customized as possible. The things that worked back then may not apply today. Um, and hey, you guys might not agree with
Excuse
me,
me.
but I still think the
Mhm.
best way to get a hold of people is through phone. We're utilizing the power of sound. We're sharing our personality. We are um, sharing our enthusiasm for why we're calling out. You can't do that in an email. I think the email, it will always be just a compliment of you reaching out. It's another touch point, but it shouldn't be the main touch point. And it obviously depends on the person and their confidence if they want to call first or email first. But the rules are, I wouldn't say that they're different nowadays, but it's definitely at a higher frequency. That's one thing that's changed because of all the tech that's out there, the software that are able to send out mass emails and customize subject lines and insert person's name from the email without you having to do anything. Um, you can have your system include the company name in there, so now it automatically puts it in the email. So there's that like fake level of customization for that cold email that a lot of companies are using for sales. But when it comes to like a business, let's just say like shovel the sidewalk of a company that really focuses on brand storytelling and the humanization of businesses, it's hard for you to just get that sort of information out just in an email. Like a lot of this is conversation, education, and really understanding what a small business owner is trying to accomplish versus going the traditional route and mindset of saying, I'm just going to do that advertising thing. I'm just going to do as many ads as possible on radio station A or TV station B or whatever it may be, but it's always about the message and not necessarily the medium. It's the quality.
Yeah.
All right, recap here. So, number of touch points, not as important as the quality of the touch points. Having systems, I mean, have a system in place, but an unmanaged system will lead to the failure of the system. People within the system need to be held accountable. You just need to check on them. Secret shopping. Secret shopping is a great way to check on your system. It's not to get a gotcha of one of your employees. It's just a great way to make sure that the system is functioning as it's supposed to. So that's a check on customer service. Are we doing the right things? And so, that leads to the other point we made today is you can have a bad day, but your customers don't
Can't
need to
know.
know you're having a bad day. If you cannot control that, then you have two choices. If you can't control that you're going to vent and snap at a customer or a prospect, then it would be either be authentic and let them know and get yourself out of that situation. Having a bad day, I'm going to get somebody else to take care of you, or get the hell out of there and have someone else take your place. But reality is fair or unfair. The company, if you hurt the company, that's not good for the company. It's not going to be good for you either. So you need to, we talk about, expand on your strengths and manage those weaknesses. And that can be on a daily occurrence. You could be having a bad day. That's a weakness. That is a weakness for that day when it comes to business. So you got to manage that and you got to figure out how to manage it. Otherwise, you can affect the brand, you can affect the revenue of the business, you can affect your job, your coworkers, and the entire
Personal
business.
brand too.
Exactly, and the personal brand. So good stuff. We've talked offline. Our next episode is we're going to focus on writing and the difference of writing for to educate, to entertain, versus writing to persuade. So persuasive writing, which is what you're in when you're in advertising, and the other one is in what, like if you're a journalist, you're writing to educate. So that's the next episode. That's it for this episode of Sidewalk Talk. Thanks for watching and listening.